Welcome to the SMB Community Podcast with hosts Amy Babinchek, James Kernan, and Carl Polachek. Produced by Kernan Consulting and for the international MSP community. We are dedicated to making every IT professional a successful IT professional. Hey there, this is James Kernan with Kernan Consulting, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the mastermind peer groups. So with the mastermind peer groups, you get a powerful combination of customized coaching, accountability, and weekly synergy sessions with like-minded professionals from all around North America. These peer groups are really focused on sales, marketing, and growth. It's all about results. And you'll experience weekly accountability meetings, monthly trainings, and then quarterly face-to-face meetings where we all get together on a quarterly basis in fun cities all around America. So be prepared to take your business to new heights and see if you've got what it takes to be one of the mastermind peer group members. Thank you.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the SMB Community Podcast with me, Amy Babinchek, and James Kernan. Hey, James.
Hey, good morning, Amy. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Well, what's new with you?
What's new? You know what's new? It seems like everybody's talking about M&A.
Yeah, they sure are.
I'll be speaking at an event this week called ExitCon. So that's a virtual event. So that was an event that kind of popped up real quick, but it seems like everybody wants to talk about M&A. And then I've got an M&A workshop again later this month. And then I know Dave Seibert's event, I'll be speaking about M&A in October at SMB Tech Fest. So,
you know, I was just at Channel Pro in Columbus, and well, the attendees really turned out for that. The room was packed, so that was great to see.
awesome. Yeah.
But holy cow, every vendor that got up on stage and spoke, and half of the other speakers who got up on stage and spoke, you know, I thought we were hearing a lot about cybersecurity. We weren't. We were hearing all about M&A, 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 M&A. And, you know, one of the things that really caught my ear was speakers talking about running your business like you're going to sell it. And I know that's been a catchphrase that some folks have used.
Yeah.
And it's one that kind of rubs me the wrong way, because I think you behave differently in your business when you're getting ready to sell it. Like, as an owner, you make different types of decisions when you're getting ready to sell it than you do when you are investing and growing and taking new risks. I worry that if you're running your business like you're going to sell it tomorrow, that maybe you're not taking the risks necessary to really make your business grow. What do you think about that, James?
I agree with you. That I think there's two key points. One, you're bringing up probably the most important, that you're making, short-term decisions that could adversely affect long-term profitability and viability. And I think that's really important. That's a great point. The second one is, I think it's a culture killer. How can you run your business thinking of selling it tomorrow? Now, I get, cleaning up your books and getting as many contracts in place and implementing all the best practices that we talk about on this program. That's, I think, what they mean. But can you imagine telling employees, hey, yeah, we're packaging this up and get ready to sell it? I mean, you talk about a demotivator, unless they're part of the action, which most of them would not be, why would they work really hard?
Yeah, that's very demotivating for an employee, but it makes them uncomfortable, because you selling the business is risky for them.
Right.
They're looking for stability, not to work for a company that's going to be traded someplace.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do agree. I think what they're meaning to say, at least I hope, what they're meaning to say is that you should run your business professionally, which is different than like you're going to sell it.
They should expand on that, because that's an important point for sure.
It's a very important topic. And, so my message, my message to folks that are going to be speaking on M&A is, let's refine that messaging some, because it's not coming off well.
Yeah. You know what I wonder if it is? If you were at the same event and multiple speakers are kind of saying the same thing, what do you think maybe some of the marketing people at those organizations was using Chat GPT to kind of come up of talking points? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's funny. That could
Yeah.
be. Yep.
Yeah, it could
Too
it could be.
too much reliance on Chat GPT turns you into a parrot.
Yeah, right. But yeah, that's you know what? I'll take M&A any day of the week. Just something refreshing and new. Cybersecurity has dominated what we've talked about for 2 straight years.
Oh
Like
yeah.
since the beginning of January, it seems like it's AI, AI, AI. So I'm just grateful that people are talking about other things.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's
Right.
something different to talk about for a change. Not to get off of the M&A topic and back onto security bandwagon, but we kind of have to because Microsoft recall has been such a hot thing in the news. And last episode, I said, I was going to reserve my opinion on that. And really, my opinion was honestly that Microsoft was uh, going to make some changes there, and I wanted to see what they were going to do because I have the general belief that Microsoft will do the right thing in the end.
Mhm.
And they're definitely moving in that direction. So there was a really good article in Wired magazine this last week, which was an exclusive, um, where Microsoft did announce that it will be off by default, and they're going to be introducing some new security parameters around it involving encryption and authorization in order to access that data. So good things are coming on the recall front. And remember, it's not coming to your PC tomorrow,
Right.
right? It's only on those cloud PCs right now. And it was, you know, there's a future date coming when it will roll out to AMD and Intel processors, but right now it doesn't run on those unless, the funny thing is I said that on a social media platform and they said, yeah, but you can flip some switches and make it happen today. And I'm like, well, what
Well,
idiot would do that? Like,
right, exactly. Let,
eh,
let Microsoft do the right thing first, and
yeah,
they
yeah,
did.
yeah. Try to make something work on your PC that you know is a potential security concern. Just, I don't know why that made any sense to them or why they thought that that was a thing. That, yeah, just don't. Wait for Microsoft to ready it for these platforms in the world of work and the future here. So we will end up with something on this recall thing, but by the time it gets here, I'm pretty confident it will be much more secure than what they've previously put out to the
Right.
cloud Surface PC environment.
So, and I know we've got an interesting question of the week that came in. You want to jump into that?
Yeah, let's do it. This question of the week is, how do you track those vendor subscriptions? It's kind of like we all have this in our personal life too, right? We've got all these subscriptions to everything now, and how do you even remember which ones you have and how much you're paying and when do they renew? And it's a real thing. And also what the parameters are around changing or canceling that subscription.
Yeah, yeah,
And
a lot to
yeah,
that.
in some ways it's new, it feels new because just the volume of them that we're having to deal with. But we also had to deal with this back in the day, right? We had to know when our volume licensing contracts were about to renew. Um, I know, back when we used LogMeIn, they had a policy for ever and ever that they had to give them 90 days notice on contract renewal if you weren't going to renew that contract. Um, and of course, a lot of MSPs do that with their own clients, right? They want their clients to you know, they have cancellation terms around their contracts too. So
Yeah,
keeping track of this stuff, it's a big deal.
that's yeah, and that's so sneaky. The 90 day written notice, and then
Mhm.
it will automatically renew, for a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year term at the same price that you bought it initially, or maybe even increased.
Yeah, and you know what's hard about that is who are you going to submit that in writing to? Because your rep is probably gone because
Gone. Yeah.
they don't last as long as a 3-year contract. They move around more frequently than that. So you
Yeah.
got to find the person to give the notice to.
That's true. And, we've all been through it. You go to the website and the only thing list or not listed up there is how to cancel. They never make that a help topic listed number one because they don't want you to. So
Right. Yeah.
anyway, I think that was a really interesting question. And a couple tips I would say. Number one, and we talked about this before, with anything that you enter in some type of contractual agreement, you always think with the end in mind. You start with the end in mind. It's like, okay, when you're talking to that rep, hey, I'll sign this, but I need to understand what happens if or when we get to cancellation. How do I do that? Walk me through step by step. Try to get that in writing if you can. And then I like putting a little reminder on my calendar, just like Amy said, if it's 90 days, then put, at 100 days out, do it ahead of time. Put a reminder on your calendar with the contract link and contact info and whatever you need, so
Mhm.
you can look and analyze that. So that would be another thing I would look at. And I actually had a client once that just did this as a business practice because there's so many subscriptions out there. If you want to see how much money you're spending, most people do a horrible job of that in their accounting package and financial reporting. But turn off your credit card. Turn off your credit card. They would do that once a year on purpose. And then all the vendors that they wanted to keep, they would just give the new credit card to, and that's what they did. Now, it didn't always work that swimmingly, because
Right.
Amy knows, you're locked into sometime longer contracts and you're
Hmm.
going to pay one way or another.
This is kind of a call for a new spreadsheet. And none of us really need more spreadsheets in our lives, but this is probably one where it would be useful. But I'm with you with the calendar thing. I always tell people, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. So,
Hmm.
um, so put it on the calendar and create the spreadsheet. Right.
Yeah,
This is just a
that's
good
a good point.
task too for your bookkeeping staff to maintain that spreadsheet, right? Because they will see subscriptions coming through and they can get them on the spreadsheet so that everyone can be aware of those,
Yeah.
what their end dates are and the amounts and all that. It's good information.
Yeah, and that spreadsheet that kind of plays right into one of the other topics that I think we had on the agenda to chat about is your profitability. You need to keep track of the costs of all these tools that we're using, to support our clients. And most of these subscriptions are our tools that should be part of your cost of goods, and and subsequently helping motivate you to increase your pricing to your customers or add more value, however you look at that. But yeah, I love the idea of tracking it as well. We all need another spreadsheet. Right.
Oh, how I hate spreadsheets. I really do.
Yeah.
I saw an advertisement on social media for a mug, and we all know people that this mug would be appropriate for, and it's just lettering, and it says this calls for a spreadsheet, right? So we know people that have that reaction to thing. That is not me, but I am actually calling for a spreadsheet today because I think it would be useful.
Yeah, and there was I saw also in the news Ken Patterson, who had been with PAX 8 for a long, long time, involved in their community. He's leaving PAX 8 and headed over to TODYL, which is another Denver-based organization. Their TODYL is a security platform that's headquartered right in downtown Denver. It's a great company. You should check them out. But yeah, happy for Ken. He's going to lead up the community over at TODYL, TODYL, if you haven't heard of them.
I have heard of them. I'm not super familiar with what their product is, but I know they've been around for a few years, and I think that's a great move for him to build up their community presence.
Yeah, yeah, their totals certainly growing like crazy, and they're seems like they're everywhere now, and including they're going to be at our mastermind event later this month. So excited
Oh,
to get that update, and we'll see if Ken appears there. We're actually Amy, you and I have talked about this before. I think some of the attendees of these conferences, we've got to get a little bit more creative and do some different things. Instead of having these events at some big fancy hotel, we're trying to do them behind the scenes at some of our strategic partners. And we'll actually be at one of the quarterly mastermind road shows. We're going to be in Denver the end of September at TODYL's office. So we'll be there for 2 days and get a behind the scenes tour. So if any of you are TODYL fans and want to check that out, just message me at james@kernanconsulting.com. I'll get you the info.
That's cool. I really like that idea. I know I'm going to be at your event down in Clearwater at TD Cynics
Yeah.
and getting some behind the scenes tour over there. And that's a company that I did business with forever. I mean, practically the entire existence of my MSP. So yeah, so pretty excited about that. I'll get to meet the TODYL folks, and I'm going to be speaking on how to use Copilot to the advantage of your MSP and your daily tasks. So,
Yeah,
um,
you always have great presentations. I'm really excited about the co-pilot. We've talked a lot on this program about the opportunities there. There's pros and cons to everything, but looking forward to what you share at the mastermind event on using co-pilot in your business. And
well, as usual, I have some really practical tips. That's just sort of who I am, right? What is this thing? How do I use it? How can I make money? Right.
right, right.
That's sort of my approach to all technology, and that hasn't varied with Copilot. So yeah, looking forward to seeing everybody down there. One last thing before we go, I've got my new Microsoft 365 newsletter, and the one that's coming out, well, as we're recording this, so it'll come out later today, but it will have been a couple weeks back by the time you guys are listening to this, but you can still find it out there. I've got a 5-part series on protecting your email and tuning up that process in Microsoft 365. So that's the highlight for that newsletter. That newsletter's got news, and then there's always a section that is about practical stuff you need to go out and do this week. So um, there's a link to that newsletter in our show notes here if you want to go ahead and sign up for that, or you could just go over to thirdtier.net and you should see the pop up and put your address in there, and we'll get yourself on that list as well. Alrighty. Well, thank you, James, for another edition of the SMB Community Podcast. We'll see you next week.
You bet. See you next week. Thanks.